Weather and climate change play a significant role in the health of humans. A warmer climate could increase the rate of heart-related illnesses and death and worsen conditions for air quality. Changes in temperature, precipitation patterns and extreme events could enhance the spread of diseases in the OECS, especially mosquito-borne diseases.
Studies and all international organizations have shown the special vulnerabilities that small island developing states such as Dominica, St. Vincent, and in fact all the other OECS and Caribbean countries face.
It has an impact. Pterygia of our eyes, that's a growth on the surface of the eye. Cataracts, retinal damage from sun, from UV radiation. And fair-skinned people, more tumors of the skin. And in fact, who knows, with the increased UV radiation, maybe even darker-skinned people will not have the kind of protection that they may have thought, because as you crank up the UV radiation, we're going to have more skin cancers and tumors.
Severe hunger, disease and homelessness are expected consequences of superstorms made worse by climate change. And many expected health effects brought on by climate change are likely to have the highest impact on the poor, the elderly, the young, the disabled and the uninsured. I am sure you have seen examples all over the world where one natural disaster can cause a health crisis. Climate change not only brings about increased vulnerabilities to diseases, but may cause the conditions for diseases to spread faster and easier. For example, dengue cases in St. Lucia alone increased from 18 in 2009 to 500 in 2011, a possible impact of increased rainfall brought about by climate change.
Water is also a vector. It carries a number of different diseases, bacteria and viruses. Diarrheal diseases, that's gastroenteritis, affects our people when the water quality drops. In particular, the most vulnerable are the very young, the very old, and those who are immunocompromised.
One of the primary concerns of the medical fraternity is the increased potential for malnutrition that may be caused from rising food prices. Doctors fear that as a result of climate change vulnerability, people will opt for food that is cheaper and possibly of poorer quality.
If the poor quality foods are going to be cheaper and people don't have money, they're going to choose the poor quality foods. The poor quality foods tend to be the foods that are high in calories and low in nutrition, high in fats, high in sugar, and these products are the ones that will produce diabetes, cancers.
Storms will also bring mental, emotional and physical distress on humans as a result of loss of homes, loss of property, loss of jobs, loss of lives, separation of families, and so forth. As a consequence, governments will need to ensure that health services and facilities are prepared to handle both mental and physical cases. Some of the impacts on the poor may be exacerbated by their housing conditions, which could cause them to be trapped in communities that are congested, in homes that have no water, little food to eat, poor drainage and unsanitary waste conditions. In response to climate change, health planners will also need to be tuned to detailed information on atmospheric conditions and weather patterns.
All this helps us to predict what is going to happen. So if we see waterfall in a certain area, the amount of rainfall that we then have some idea about the rate of flow into the streams and how that collects into rivers and how the water behaves, how much of it runs off the land, how much of it percolates down, how quickly it gets from one area to the other. And you can see where this is important for flood warning, for example.
Look at the geographic information systems, how our health information systems can link with geographic information, how we can do projections, so we can begin to know where are flood-prone areas, where are mosquito-infested areas, where are certain diseases, so we can have better surveillance and more targeted approaches to how we can protect populations from the impact of various diseases, be it mosquito-borne or rat-borne.
The impact of climate change on health will depend on many factors. These include the effectiveness of the country's public health and safety systems to address and prepare for the risk, as well as the attitudes, age, gender, and economic status of individuals affected. Impacts will likely vary by OECS member states based on the sensitivity of the populations, the extent of the exposure to climate change impacts, and the society's ability to cope with change.
Act now. Rally, rethink, respond. This message is brought to you by the OECS Secretariat with funded assistance from the United States Agency for International Development.